All right. I'll send this to Facebook right now. All right, hello everybody. We'll get started in just 1 second. We are just going live on Facebook as well. And so we're going to see if this is going to work. Hopefully it will. It says it's setting up your webinar for Facebook Live. And done. So I hope everybody's seeing this on Facebook as well. Okay, all right, so I'm going to hide that so I don't get distracted seeing my face too many times. Okay, and we're also waiting for Felix. Felix is going to be presenting with us today. Hopefully we got a really good presentation. Oh, here, let me get back. Hope everybody is in the right location for our webinar. Webinar today is ways to accept payment. We're going to just talk about all kinds of different payment, a lot of stuff in person, but we're also going to mention online as well. That's why we got it for small farm enterprises, for those that are going to be doing out at farmers markets, craft shows, bazaars, things like that. But then, this applies to all kinds of different businesses as well. So I think whoever shows up, I think you're going to get something out of this presentation. So let's see. So I'm just going to give it a couple more minutes, and then we'll get going. I should have some jazzy music going to have everybody. So we can be partying. Okay. All righty. Hello, Felix. Welcome. Okay. At 4:04, I'm going to launch into this. Make sure we got everybody here. Of course, welcome everybody. Make sure you guys are in the right location. Ways to accept payment today from the IDRS Acorn project. I'll just get going in just a few minutes, less than a minute, and then we're going to be launching. Okay, all righty. I think it's time to get going, and everybody can get caught up. So welcome everybody. This webinar, as I've mentioned multiple times, this is ways to accept payment, and we have it on there, little byline for small enterprises and other small businesses. I think there's going to be a lot of good information here, both if you're selling in person, farmers markets, craft shows, flea markets. So we're going to have a lot of in-person stuff, but we're also going to focus online as well and just talk about different payment methods, because I think a lot of people probably don't think there's a lot to talk about within payment methods, but I think as you see, as we get going into this, there is a lot of considerations that you have to make. Even if you are taking certain payments, maybe you haven't even thought about some of these things, but at least this will at least get your mind going and get you considering these things and say, okay, what is really best for my business. As we go through this presentation, want to first thank our funders. So all of IDRS's webinars are totally presented free of charge. We're able to do this based on the generous contributions of our funders. So we have funding, both ourselves and our partner, Tolani Lake Enterprise, which I'll talk about in just a second. We have funding from the USDA Rural Development. We both have rural business development grants. IDRS has funding for the U.S. Small Business from the U.S. Small Business Administration, Office of Native American Affairs. Very appreciative of their support. We also have funding here in California to do work for Native American small businesses from the California Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development. And also we have a grant to do this type of work from the Elevate Initiative. And there's a number of other small funders we haven't mentioned, but we're very appreciative of all the funders that support the IDRS Acorn Project to be able to bring you these presentations. So who is IDRS? IDRS stands for the Indian Dispute Resolution Services. We've been around since 1989. About 10 years ago, we were working in natural resource development, and we really saw a need to provide small business training to help folks that were going to be working in forest restoration create self-sustainable businesses. And what ended up happening is when we started launching those classes, it wasn't folks that wanted to work on the forest that was coming to the classes. It was people that wanted to be food vendors, that were native artists, that were a gentleman wanted to be a handyman. Somebody wanted to open up a car wash. And so we said, hey, there seems to be a real demand to do small business training. And so we created the Acorn Project. So on the left-hand side is our logo for Indian Dispute Resolution Services. We do a lot of dispute resolution work, tribal council elections. And I should have changed this slide up just so you have the website. But our website for our forward-facing work that we do with tribes is idrsinc.org, idrsinc.org, and you'll find that's our website for Indian Dispute Resolution Services. And then we have a forward-facing website specifically for Native entrepreneurs, and you can find that at nativebiz.org. And I just happen to have my email there, but I'm going to make sure that gets changed just so you guys have both of those website addresses, and I'll even put that in the chat box as well. Okay, so I'm going to now introduce AJ Tapto from Tolani Lake Enterprises and let her talk about her organization and the partnership with IDRS. AJ, please.
Thank you, Mark. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Adriana Tapto, and I like to go by AJ. I am Navajo Nez Person Kiowa from Tolani Lake, Arizona, and I am Tolani Lake Enterprises Program Manager. I've been with TLE since 2017, first working as an intern and then as a project coordinator. So I've been with them a little bit over the years, and they've actually been in business since the year 2000. And TLE's sort of mission is to cultivate healthy, safe, and prosperous communities by strengthening food, water, and economic systems for our Native communities, empowering our Native youth, and promoting Native cultural knowledge. So Tolani Lake Enterprises is based in the southwestern region of the Navajo Nation. And yeah, we work a lot with our communities, the local chapter houses, and grassroots organizations. And I'd just like to thank you all for hosting and also being a part of the panel, Felix. Thank you, Mark, for having us and being in partnership with us. We really appreciate it. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, AJ. And just a little bit about myself. So my name is Mark Thompson. I'm the executive director here at IDRS. I'm a Choctaw descendant. I have been at IDRS for just a little over 20 years. I started as a business manager and took over as the executive director about 10 years ago. We're located in Plymouth, California. Like I said, I talked about our dispute resolution work and our small business development program called the Acorn Project, and that's generally who we are. I've been a small business owner as well. My wife and I have run a small horse boarding facility, and we have done a number of different projects. And so a lot of this small business work and the stuff that I talk about is stuff that we're living on a day-to-day basis. If you need to reach me, you can always call our phone number, 916-482-5800, or my email is mark@idrsinc.org. And I've put both IDRS's website and the Acorn Project's website and the chat box. I don't have a slide here. I forgot about kind of the housekeeping. So this webinar is going to be probably just a little bit shorter than an hour. I normally talk a lot, so I'm going to really try to constrain myself today. But this is a webinar format. If you guys have been to Zoom presentations before, they can either be a meeting or a webinar. This is a webinar, so that means you can't automatically come off of mute. But if you do want to speak verbally, you can always raise your hand and I could unmute you, or you can always use the chat box. We're going to be monitoring the chat box all through the webinar, and you can ask questions there. So however you want to do it, we just want to make sure everybody gets heard and get their questions answered. So a little bit about what we're doing here. We're going to be talking about payment methods and why payment methods are important. Even why we should even be talking about payment methods. We're going to be talking about the different payment methods that are available, talk about pros and cons. And then what's really cool is we're going to get to hear from Felix a little bit later in the presentation, talking about his real life uses of payment methods, and get to hear how it's folks are taking payment both in person but also online as well. So what I thought I'd start off is with a poll. I have some ridiculous sense of humor, so I apologize. This is the May poll. It's May. There's a poll, but we're going to take a different type of poll, and so I'm going to launch my poll here, and let's see if this works. Okay, I hope everybody is. AJ, is everybody seeing the poll?
I know I got the poll. Did everyone else get the poll? If you want to.
People are voting, so I think
Okay.
people have the poll. So what I want to ask on the poll is a couple different questions. So the first question, these are both multiple choice. We want to talk about how you guys sell. So this is how you make a transaction to your customer. Are you doing sales online? Are you doing sales in person? Maybe you invoiced your clients, or you may not even be selling at all. So wanted to first ask that. So that's the first question. The second question in the poll is, and I was thinking these were going to be launched separately. I apologize for my lack of technical expertise here on Zoom, but they're being launched together. But so if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see the second question. And that's if you are accepting payments, how do you accept payments now? And this is also multiple choice. So are you accepting only in cash, or you have other methods as well? So what I'm seeing here from those that have voted is there's everybody is selling both in person and online, and there's a couple people that are also invoicing their clients, and, which is really cool, because I think a lot of people don't think about there's going to be what I'm hoping to do in this webinar is talk about, even if you're a farmer and you are selling like at a farmer's market, you may think, oh, there's no reason why I would invoice my client. But I want to talk about also not just payments here, but also talk about different ways that you could be conducting your business, where doing some of these ways that you take payment from your customers might come into play and would hopefully give you additional payment streams, make your business more self-sustainable, right? Not only increase revenue, but when you're getting multiple income streams, you're also increasing the sustainability. I'm trying to think of the word, but you're making your business stronger, to where if something happens to one of those income streams, you have other income streams as well that you can fall back on. That's one of the things, we're not going to talk a lot about it in this webinar, but value-added products. We've done webinars in the past with TLE where we've talked about value-added production. And one of the cool things about that is, if you have a bad farm season, right, a bad growing season, if you have already produced a whole bunch of value-added products that are shelf-stable, those may be able to continue to bring in sales for your business, even though the sales that you have for the actual produce that you've grown is not as strong. So that's we're hoping to talk a little bit about that as well, and how you can bring in other types of products and take other forms of payment. And then if we go down to the second question, looking at how you're selling. So most everybody's accepting cash. Really expected that. But then we're also looking at credit cards. And what's very interesting about this is in looking at the data about who actually or how people want to pay. Most everybody, I should say most everybody, the largest percentage of people want to pay by credit cards, and half of the people that have responded are accepting credit cards, but many more people are accepting payment apps like Venmo. So that's very interesting that maybe a smaller percentage of people are actually paying with Venmo, but most vendors feel more comfortable just accepting that because that's on their phone. So we'll talk a little bit about that and see if we can get you guys taking credit cards as well. All right, let me end this poll and let's move on. Oh, you know what? AJ, you got to come on and you got to let me know, because I am not the best at Zoom, especially when it's doing this payment. So one of the things I noticed, I've been here talking and looking at the results, but you guys have not been able to see the results. And so I just noticed that now it's sharing the results, correct?
Yeah, I see the results.
But did you see the results before when I was talking?
No.
That's the thing. I thought everybody was seeing the results. So anyway, so everything of what I said is true, but how do you sell? So all that's there in the first thing, and then on the bottom, just talked about cash and credit cards and Venmo. Sorry about that. You guys weren't seeing the results, but they're there now. Okay, all righty. So I'm going to stop sharing those results and let's move on. So let's talk a little bit about why we're even talking about payments. Oh, you know what? I did not change the text in this. There is something wrong. I meant to change the text on the slide. I changed everything, but is there a way? I'll explain it. Why we're talking about taking payment. Um, when you're taking payment, right, this is the way that you're going to be selling things. People want to buy things from you. They have to give you some form of payment, whether that's going to be cash. And we talked about those. I mean, it could be even traditionally, right? Even in barter, right? You're accepting things so that you can provide what you want to provide to somebody else, whether you're bartering with them, whether you're selling. When somebody wants to pay you a certain way, if you're not able to accept the form of payment that they're wanting to provide, that may lose you the sale. So that's one of the reasons why it's important to talk about actually taking the form of payment that you're taking, right? Because if you're only accepting cash and somebody is coming to you with a credit card, not only that they may want to pay with a credit card, but they may only have the ability to pay with a credit card, right? They may not have any cash with them. There's lots of people now that aren't even carrying cash any longer. And so if that's the case, not not accepting the credit card may cost you that sale. So that's one of the things, right? Is that we want to make sure that we're accepting payment, not every single form of payment, because one of the things I'll mention later is that when you accept more forms of payment, the management of these forms of payment may become a burden to you. But what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're accepting the forms of payment that our customers want to pay. And how that not only leads to where we might lose a little revenue if we can't accept those forms of payment. By accepting additional forms of payment, we may actually increase revenue. If you're the only person at a farmer's market that is accepting credit cards or accepting Venmo, while people may have spent money at some of the other vendors, if they don't have, cash and they can't purchase from those other vendors, that money may be burning a hole in their pocket or their phone, so to speak, and they may spend that with you. So thinking about, like, if you can broaden the way that you accept payment, may actually increase the revenue, with their business, with your business. And there's new forms of payment that is coming on all the time. So we're going to be talking about a number of different forms of payment in this webinar: cash, checks, credit card, some other new forms as well. But one of the things is, no matter what we talk about here, there's going to be new stuff that's coming online. There's going to be stuff that you guys know that I won't know, just because there's so many ways. And I wouldn't say just the ways to take payment, but like we'll talk about credit card readers. And I mentioned in this presentation using Square devices. But Square is only one of dozens of companies that actually produce devices so that you're able to take credit cards. So one of the things I definitely would encourage everybody, if there's things that you know about that I'm talking about in a section, and I'm not mentioning something that you know about, please either request to come off mute, or put something in the chat box, because you guys, I don't pretend that I'm the expert on these issues. We're all the experts because we all bring our experiences, and we're all using something different. And something that you're using may be appropriate for somebody else that's listening today. And so, please share that information. And I'll just say, none of the stuff that we're doing here is an endorsement of everything, an endorsement of any one product. I'm just kind of sharing some of the more larger platforms, just because those are generally more common. And like I said, there may be something that would work better for you. Just have to do that research. All right. So now, what I'd like to do is talk also about, I mentioned just about, the reasons why you might take, payment, and take different forms of payment. So this was some of the statistics that I found about talking about the way people want to pay now. And so you can see that 60% of payments were made with payment cards. That's debit card, that's credit card, prepaid card. So that may be like a green dot card. Maybe also there's another type of card, I think it's called the Bluebird, that is a partnership between American Express and Walmart. So basically plastic. People are carrying money on plastic, and most people want to pay that way, right? The vast majority. So if you're not accepting that, there's a good chance that you may lose these sales. Even further getting into technology is looking at digital wallets. A digital wallet is basically, it's also credit cards, but they're stored on your phone, your smartphone, right? So the large digital wallet companies are Apple Pay, Google Pay, and Samsung Pay, right? And so being able to have an NFC reader, we'll talk a little bit about that. If most people now are even paying with their credit cards through their digital wallet. So if you don't have an NFC reader, there's a possibility that you would lose sales there as well, right? Luckily, a lot of the card readers now that can take a credit card can also take a payment from a digital wallet as well. And then, even so, this study was produced a couple years ago, and they estimated that by this year, 91% of transactions will be electronic. Now, that's not just in person, right? Because obviously, all transactions that are done online are electronic, and there's a lot of transactions that are being done online with Amazon and Walmart. But ever increasingly, when you get into receiving payment, more and more people are going to be wanting to pay electronically. So are you able to accept payment electronically? I think that's the important key, thinking about how my customers want to pay, and can I accept payment in that method. Just wanted to have a quick graphic for you, show you that now. And this is also encompassing not just in person, this is online, right? Because if you look at that 13% number, that 13% is referencing things like direct payments between bank accounts, like ACH payments, and automated clearinghouse, what that stands for. And that's a payment from one bank to another. Obviously, those payments cannot be made in person if you're standing there at the farm stand. So, so this is including both online and in person. But you can see the vast majority, 63%, are paying with a credit card. And if we look at the old paper forms, the very small percentage, and it's probably shrinking every single year, that'll continue to get smaller. That's cash, checks, and money orders. I would venture to say I wouldn't even know if most people even knew what a money order is or have ever even paid with a money order in the past. But they're still out there, but those are going to just get increasingly smaller and smaller as a percentage of the payment methods as people just continue to have increased smartphone adoption. But even smartphone adoption, most people have smartphones now, but it's even smartphone a comfort with using smartphones and the different features on smartphones, being able to store your credit cards in your smartphone, right? And especially as younger folks that are doing this already, as they continue to get older, they'll just have that comfort. They'll just continue to use it, and there'll be new and younger consumers that will come up and will continue to adopt these payments. Okay, so all right, so that's why we're talking about payment, right? We want to make sure that we are taking payment in the form that our customers want to pay, right? Because if we can take the form of payment the way our customers want to pay, they'll be more likely to do business with us, right? And we won't have to turn away customers, and we may even be able to get customers that can't pay at other merchants that will be willing to pay with us. So let's just talk about real quickly as we get into these different methods, the way that people are going to be paying. So we got in person, right? And so when we're talking about in person, and most of the stuff we're going to be talking about is focusing on in person, because as this partnership with Tolani Lake Enterprises, we're working with farmers on Navajo. And one of the ways that they're probably going to be selling is at farmers markets and selling in person, right? So in person, right? People are there face to face with you, and you are going to exchange something, right? It may be even electronically, but you're going to do it at that time. Other ways that you can sell to people is selling online, right? So if you're selling online, I think we all understand the way that, there's all these different methods that you can sell online. Have a store on Etsy. You can create your own store using Shopify. You could even be selling something on Facebook and accept payment through Facebook. I would consider all of those transactions as being online, and there's a number of different ways to do that. One differentiator, because you can do this online as well, is invoicing. And invoicing, the way invoicing works, and I used to work for a company where we sold automotive chemicals and tire supplies, and some people would pay us at the time, pay us, via a credit card. We carried a reader. Some people would pay cash, but the vast majority of our customers, we would actually hand them an invoice, and they would send us a check, right? They would either pay by the invoice, or even some customers would pay by statement, especially if we're going to their business multiple times in a month. At the end of the month, we would send them a statement, and then they would pay, just send us one check for all of those invoices for the month. So you may be doing something very similar. And so that's going to be, you're going to want to think about, if you're doing business in that way, taking payment in a different way, right? I think that's one of the things, is how are you running your business, and and who your customers are. You want to adopt the best payment methods for the way your business is running. Recurring billing is why I threw that up there. Is that's kind of a thing that's going on a lot now, right? We see it with big companies like Netflix, all these subscription models, right? It's been around for a while. If you get a telephone, if you have cable TV or satellite TV, you have basically a subscription model, right? As you pay every single month. But this could be a model that your own business adopts, right? You may have a CSA box where you're delivering a box of produce, and you're just going to bring that produce to somebody every single month, and they're paying automatically. And so if you're doing that, you could be doing that online, and you could also be doing that in person as well, delivering that. You could be doing it by invoice, where when you bring them a box, you hand them an invoice and they pay at a later date. So if you're doing business that way, you may decide to take payment in a different manner. And and like I said, I don't know everything. Is there any others? If there's any others, please feel free to put them in the chat box, because I'd love to hear how other people are doing business, if they're doing something different than one of these ways. Okay, all right. So I'm going to move on, but if there are other ways, please put them in the chat box. But what we're going to do and get into now is we're going to be talking about different forms of payment. We're going to talk about how they work, kind of the pros and cons of each method, and who's it suited for, and when you shouldn't use it. And we're just going to be talking about kind of the particulars. So one of the first ways, I think everybody knows this, most people are probably using this, is we're going to talk about cash. And so I don't think there's a whole lot to talk about here as far as how it works. I think everybody understands cash. You pay, hand somebody the cash, they give you the goods, right? And we all know that it's instantaneous. You got the money right there. There's not there's not a risk that you're not going to get paid. You have that money. You can immediately take that money, put it to the bank. You can immediately take that money and spend it. A couple pros that maybe people haven't thought about is you may not want people to know what you're doing, right? That's one of the things, having anonymity in your business. There's people that really feel that's important. People that are selling maybe illicit goods, or even there's a lot of tribes that are getting into the marijuana business, right? And it's marijuana is illegal federally. And so it's very difficult to have banking relationships if you're selling marijuana, right? And so the ability to deal in cash allows you to continue in business without running afoul of those requirements, or getting your funds seized, or you could be doing this basically under the radar. You're able to accept payment when there's no internet, right? If you're out somewhere that's very remote, and I know on Navajo, cell phone service is an issue. You're able to conduct business, by having cash. That's a lot more difficult if you're requiring a reader that's going to require you to scan something. You don't need to have infrastructure. There's no transaction fees. So there's a lot of pros to cash. And you may think, well, there's not really any cons to using cash, but there actually is. There's a risk of theft. If there's a risk of loss, you have to manage this money. And I think one of the real big things for individuals, that if you're selling to and you're trying to attract customers, is what I mentioned earlier, is about people not accepting cash, right? There's a lot of folks that aren't carrying cash. They don't have, I shouldn't say accepting cash. People aren't carrying cash. So, if you're going to be a cash only business, it's going to get more and more difficult to get people to find customers that will pay you. And I know there's even restaurants, actually brick and mortar places, that only accept cash. So it is able to be done. What happens a lot of times is they have to signal, though, right? They have to have, like, in the window, cash only, or on their, if they have a website, or just, from customers having experience going there, hey, bring cash because this is a cash only business. It's much more difficult when you don't have that familiarity, right? If you're coming to a pop-up location and you don't know who your customers are, and your customers may not be familiar with you, they may only be carrying a card, and then they want to pay with a card and they're unable to because you don't accept it, right? So that's one of the things about, it's obviously everybody's going to accept cash for the most part, but it's if you only accept cash, I think that there's a definite issue of losing sales. One of the things I'll say is, I said most people will accept cash. There's actually going to be, some businesses that don't want to accept cash because they may have employees working a booth, right? And there's that risk of theft, both by somebody stealing that money, or also employee theft. And so there are a lot of businesses. I was just at a festival, and they they have like these beer sales, these beer trucks, and the beer trucks would only accept credit, right? There's no cash available because they probably have all these employees. That's going to be tons of cash that are going through there. Big risk of theft. And it's very hard to keep track of that cash, right? So there is a good possibility that an employee could be taking some of that cash as well, right? Whereas if you're paying by credit card, the business knows exactly how much is being paid, and that's all going electronically. So all those funds are safe. Okay, so cash, very basic. Um, but I did want to talk about the cash usage because we're talking about if you're if you are only accepting cash, uh, you know, what's going to happen to your sales moving forward. One of the things, and I just mentioned about also having who your customer is going to be. So as you can see, this is cash usage by age group. This is done a few years ago. So I would expect that cash usage has even decreased further. And you'll notice between 2019 and 2020, we had something really big that happened during that period. Of course, that was COVID, right? And so COVID was a big precipitator to move away from cash. Of course, there was a lot of in-person business prior, and then with COVID, that shut everything down. So we may even be seeing a little bit of return to cash, but I would, once people start using, non-contact payment methods, that could be using digital wallets, using credit card with just a tap to pay. People don't want to move back to using cash. But one of the things you'll notice from this graph is a lot of older customers are much more likely to pay in cash. I think what's kind of unique about this is the extreme younger customers had a higher level of cash payment. And I think what that's the reason for that is because they may not have access to credit, right? They may not have a good credit record. They may not be able to get a credit card. So they may be stuck paying cash. But as your customers start to get into middle age, they have access to credit cards, and they tend to prefer to pay for credit cards, right? Easier for them to track. They don't have to carry specific amount of cash. It may be on their phone, so they don't even have to carry a wallet. However, older people, right? Older people, they just tend to be better prepared, and and they want to make sure that they have their cash available, and so they're probably going to have cash. So if you're dealing with a younger customer base, especially a younger middle-aged customer base, and you're not accepting credit card, that's going to be probably a real problem for your business, right? However, if your customers are much older, and you're only accepting cash, you may still be able to get by on that because your customers are probably still carrying cash and are going to be able to pay for their purchases. So let's talk about checks. I think everybody's familiar with checks. If you haven't checked, we have some young folks on the line that have never seen a check previously. This is what a check looks like, right? All a check is a piece of paper that's issued by a bank. It's got your bank account number on there, your routing number. You fill it out, you write your name, or you write who you're paying, the amount, and you sign it. and you give it to that person, and then they deposit it in their bank account, and then the two banking institutions, talk back and forth and make sure that those funds are transferred from the person that wrote the check's bank to the person who got the check, and that money is put into their account. So, I think most people would be thinking, why would I ever accept checks, right? Checks are, not many people carry checks. That's totally true, right? And there's a lot of risks to checks, right? I mean, I have the pros here, but I think really the cons is what we should talk about first, right? If you're accepting checks as a vendor, there's a possibility that they may bounce, right? There may not even be a need to accept checks because very few people even carry checks. Probably, if we had a graph like the cash example, the people that would be talking about the people that would be carrying checks would probably even more heavily skew to the older people. So, totally understand that, talking about checks, probably not a huge issue in your business. But one of the things I did want to mention with checks is why it might be good. Is it's how it's the size of your transaction, and also how often you're seeing that customer. So maybe if this is going to be a one-off transaction, like you're at a farmer's market, like you're at a pop-up, you probably don't want to accept checks because there's a possibility that those will bounce, and then that customer is gone with the product and you're out the money. However, if you have a regular customer, and especially if your goods are going to be more expensive. Let's say you're running a CSA box, and that CSA box is, $30, $40, $50, right? Instead of requiring that customer to either pay by credit card or by check, there's a pretty good likelihood that if somebody was to write you a check, that check is going to be good, right? And that just gives the opportunity where you're providing customer service to your customer, right? You're saying, hey, I know you don't have, you probably don't have maybe this cash line at home, and you may prefer to pay by check. There's a good possibility that this check is going to be good, so I'm going to take it. That's really all that you're doing there. You're providing the customer just that extra little bit of service by being willing to take a check. One of the cons, though, I will say about this, as I mentioned on cash, that there's this anonymity, right? So with cash, you don't need to have a bank account or anything, right? You can deposit your cash in the bank, but you really don't have to do that. You could keep the cash at your house and spend it, as you get it in and as you need to. But with checks, you are going to have this relationship with a bank. So if you don't have a banking relationship, it's going to be very hard to accept checks because most places will not deposit a check or cash a check for you. Even if, and I'm seeing now is even if you take a check that's written and you go to that person's bank, like let's say, large bank, Bank of America, right? And let's say I'm writing a check and I'm writing it to AJ. And so I write her the check to Bank of America, and she goes now to Bank of America to try to cash a check. They're going to ask AJ, do you have a bank account here at Bank of America? She's going to say, no, I don't. I bank over at Wells Fargo. And they're going to say, I'm sorry, we won't cash the check. And so if you don't have a bank that you can put that check into, you may not even be able to cash it. It'd be a real hassle. So be thinking about that. Are your customers the type of customer that would want to write a check? And are you able to accept checks? So, I didn't want to spend a lot of time, but I at least wanted to throw it in there so that you guys could be thinking about that, right? Is like, okay, I've never even thought about checks, right? But if with any of these payment methods, if you can earn, a, a few hundred, a few thousand more dollars every year, because you're willing to take that form of payment, especially if it's not going to put a lot of risk, it's not going to cost you a lot of money, right? Either with checks by bouncing, or maybe the fees aren't very high, like we're going to talk about next with credit cards. I would say it's worthwhile, and it's at least worthwhile in considering it. So that's the reason why we bring it up. So the next form of payment, and this is the most popular form of payment, of course, is credit cards, right? And credit cards are huge. I think most of us, we know what credit cards are. Most of us have credit cards and use credit cards on a regular basis, right? So as we're going to accept credit cards, um, because everybody wants to pay with it, I shouldn't say everybody. A lot of people want to pay with it. What we have to be thinking about is how are we going to accept credit cards? And we're going to talk about online payments. There's a lot of online payments mentioned here as online payment gateway, but really what we need is some form of card reader. And before we used to have this mag stripe that we would swipe, and that would be the way to pay. And even before that you could plug into your phone, there used to be things that you would plug into a physical landline telephone, and it'd be much more hardware, so it was very difficult to sell remotely. And I even remember the days where you would actually take an imprint of a credit card, which was very risky, right? Somebody would give you a credit card and you had a carbon copy, and you would slide this little machine against it and take this an imprint of the credit card and have somebody sign. And of course, if that credit card wasn't good, you as the vendor were out. But of course, people wanted to pay with credit cards, so that was a risk that people would take. But now a lot of that has done away because we're able to take payment through a credit card reader on our telephone. So it's a very simple process, and we'll talk about in the next slide how we actually start taking payment on our phone. But with credit cards, it's convenient. A lot of people have credit cards, so that's one of the reasons why you would take credit cards, right? Because almost all of your customers are going to have a credit card and can pay by credit card. Another nice thing is if you have larger transactions, not having the specific amount of cash or not having enough cash could be a real issue, right? You're not going to have that. So one of the reasons why people might take checks, because if you have a larger transaction, they may not have the cash. But a more secure method than taking a check is to take a credit card, because the credit card, if you have an internet connection, can be reconciled right there, and you can make sure that this is the transaction is going to be good and will go through. So being able to take credit cards is a very valuable service. Some of the cons, you're going to have fees, and we'll talk a little bit about fees in just a second. And there is the potential for chargebacks, right? And a chargeback is just, I question a charge on my bill, and the credit card will put an inquiry to the vendor, and if the credit card finds in favor of the customer, you may actually have that money removed from your account and lose the sale. And of course, at that point, those goods are gone. So I'm sure that's one of the reasons why some people don't do it. But this is what we have. We work with a lot of different types of small businesses, and there's a lot of artists, and some artists don't put their work online because they're worried about other people stealing their images, right? That they're going to steal their images and put them on shirts, or they're going to create their own products, or maybe they may claim their art as their own, and that is all a possibility. But in that case, just like in this case, I think the benefits of taking the credit card, of putting your art online or taking credit cards, the benefits outweigh the not doing it, right? And so there is the possibility of chargebacks. There is the possibility of you're going to have some fees, right? You could have some of these bad things happen to you, but that's just the cost of doing business. But on the flip side, you're going to get so much more from accepting credit cards than you would not. So let's talk a little bit about how we're going to accept credit cards. Okay, so I mentioned we used to have these kind of mechanical devices that would take an imprint, and Square kind of really revolutionized the market by creating a mag strip reader. And as I mentioned previously, I'm just using Square because Square is kind of the dominant player. There's other large players as well, like PayPal, but Square was kind of first to market with this type of reader. And so Square is just easy to talk about, but they're by any means not the only vendor that's out there. There's tons and tons of these credit card readers, and many of them do something very similar. Maybe they have a little bit of different rates, but they're all able to connect with your telephone and be able to with a smartphone and take payment over the telephone. And so I'm showing one here that has what is called a lightning plug. This is one that you would use with an iPhone. I should have had a picture here as well. There's another one before that would plug directly into your headphone jack. But when iPhone and subsequently when a lot of Android phones got rid of the headphone jack, well, you couldn't use that reader anymore. So Square came out and created a reader that you could plug in to the phone, using the lightning cable or a USB-C. But then they said, well, there's a lot of other communication technologies. We don't have to physically just plug it in. And there is a limitation in this type of reader, if you guys are still using this type of reader. So this is a reader that scans a strip, right? The strip, and let me see if I have a credit card that's sitting here. I want to make sure that I don't show my credit card, but credit card number. I don't want everybody charging. But there's a strip right here, and you would actually slide this through the through that reader, and by sliding that through the reader, you would then that's how it communicates the credit card number and your account information to the phone. Then the phone sends that to the Square servers to be processed by Visa or MasterCard, whatever the credit card processor is. And so everything is there on that magnetic strip. Okay. So, but one of the things is you'll know there's these things tap to pay, and I've been mentioning with these digital wallets. All those are through a communication called NFC, near field communication, right? So you actually need to be able to have a device that you don't swipe something, but you are able to communicate in other ways, right? Using this NFC technology. So Square came out with a different type of reader. And there's also, in this, I'll mention two different types of technology. So as you can see on this little device, it's going to be hard. I'll show you the logo in just a few minutes. But there's two different types of technologies here that you're getting from a reader like this, because you're not swiping any longer. You can either tap to pay, but let's say your card did not have tap to pay. As you can see, there's this long area that's at the one of the sides of this reader, and most cards now, I'll go back to my card here, right on the front. I haven't even taken off my thing off this card. As if you can see, let's see if is it going to do it. Put it on my face. There we go. It's got that little pin or that little chip right there, and that little chip, if you put in there, that has a lot of the same information that's on the magnetic strip, right? It's actually more secure than the magnetic strip. It creates a digital signature that can be sent, and so that's what that reader allows it to do, right? So you're adding a little bit layer of security, and for people that don't have tap to pay, you're able to accept their cards when they have a PIN as well. Right now, if you have somebody, I don't know that these cards are even out there anymore, that don't have NFC technology or don't have a chip. You may want to have this other ability to swipe, and you'll know if you go into a grocery store or someplace like a Walmart, some of these other large these large sellers, right? They have machines that not only have tap to pay, but have a chip and then also have the swipe, because sometimes those other technologies aren't working, or sometimes your chip may be damaged. And so you can see the ability to be able to take your credit card in different forms is very important, because if for some reason your card doesn't have NFC and the chip is damaged, if you can't accept a swipe of that card, as payment, you may lose that sale, right? So having both of these, right, and these are very very inexpensive. For the swipe device that plugs into your telephone, a lot of times Square will give that to you for free, or if you need to replace it, I think it may be like $15. That tap to pay, which is communicates via your phone via Bluetooth, and that's going to be $59. And there's a lot of readers that are from other companies as well, and they're all that do this very similar thing and all about that price between kind of that $40 all the way up to $100. And you know, they may have different what they call discount rates. That's the rate that the company will actually process the credit card at, but they all do something very similarly. So so you can see for free you can be swiping cards, and for about $50 you can be able to take chip cards and also tap to pay cards very inexpensively. Okay, so just real quick, getting off of these readers just for a second, wanted to also talk about with that NFC chip, you can take these digital wallet payments, right? And those are payments that are in your telephone. Okay, so if so that could be through something like you know, Apple Pay, Google Pay, Samsung Pay, and many of the consumers are actually using these digital wallets now. They're using, you know, they're putting their credit cards in, and they're spending. So, you know, being able to take those type of payments as well is going to be also very valuable to you. And so I mentioned before, looking at the logo. So this is the logo that you'll see on many of the cards, and you'll see a picture of this on the readers as well, because you want your reader to have this, your card reader to have this, because then you will be able to not only take credit card payments that allow tap to pay, but you'll also be able to accept you know, digital wallets on smartphones, and be able to accept payment that way as well. And you know, and one of the things I noticed on, you know, when I was doing some research on this, there were some of these statistics that I found, and it said that 51% of people said they would stop shopping with a merchant that doesn't accept payments via a digital wallet. So that's very, you know, I mean, that's a pretty strong statement, right? So there may be people that are coming to a farmer's market, could be coming to a craft show, could be even to a brick and mortar store, and they don't have a wallet. They are not holding their actual plastic credit cards with them. They only have payment on a telephone, right? And so unless you're able to accept payment with this logo, right, and through one of these payment apps, there's a good chance that you'll lose their business. So that's one of the reasons why that we, you know, suggest being able to accept payment in this way. Just a couple other credit card readers. You can get into much more sophisticated readers like this device from Square. I think runs about $300. And it gets into what they call a POS. POS is just a point of sale system, and it allows allows you to swipe the card as well, and a receipt actually pops out of there. People could input a tip and all kinds of different things. You know, whereas a lot of times maybe somebody would be signing on your telephone, they're doing it here on this actual device, and you could actually even get up even larger than this and or more sophisticated than this, and they even have a cash register. Okay. But one of the cool things, and so one of the things we wanted to bring today is cool things that you guys might not have been thinking about. And so Square has even come out with something to this is about a year old now. You don't even need a reader to be able to take payments via NFC anymore, right? So this is credit cards that have that little logo, and you can see the little logo up in the right-hand corner of the card, or if you have a digital wallet on your cell phone, you can actually have the Square app on your phone, and this will actually allow you to accept tap to pay payments directly into your phone, right? You obviously can't take a chip card payment, and you won't be able to take a swipe card payment this way, right? Because obviously there's no physical connection for the card to interact with the phone in that way. But if it's going to be all through signals, through tap to pay, You can do this right on your telephone. And I think that's really cool. Is like you could just have an app and you could already be accepting payments, no additional dollars, right? And you're in business. So I would say at the minimum, signing up for something like this from Square to allow you to accept payment. Okay. So wanted to also talk about the fees of credit cards. And you know what I'm noticing is I've done it again. I've rambled on and I've already burned an hour. So I'm going to go through this a lot quicker, but I wanted to at least touch on a few more points before we get to Felix. But what I wanted to, so I only have a few more slides, but I wanted to mention when it comes to credit cards, because as you're accepting credit cards, we talked about some of the things like chargebacks, but I think for most businesses, that's a rare occurrence when people are actually challenging transactions. What's more important is when you are actually accepting cards, the cost to accept cards. So I just gave an example here of some different fees. And so I think Shopify, is it Shopify? Oh no, it's actually Stripe. So Stripe actually has a plan where you can process cards, through a tap to pay, which is 2.6% plus 5 cents per transaction. Square standard rate is 2.6 plus 10 cent. And this is really no longer the case, but they used to have where it'd even be up to 30 cents per transaction. But with Square, they've really pushed down the market. But I wanted to at least show you how these play out. When you get up to like you're doing average transactions of $10 or more, yes, even if you have a 30-cent transaction, per transaction, it does raise the percentage cost, but it's actually not all that much. And when it gets down to 5 to 10 cents per transaction, it's not a very big percentage of the sale, right? It's the discount rate at that point, which is 2.6 for all these. But if you're accepting smaller transactions, and if most of your transactions are going to be small, and let's say you have $1 is the average size transaction, and you have a 30-cent, per charge, that's actually going to be 33% of that transaction. Even if you went to 5%, it's still almost 10% of the transaction value. And so you're losing a large percentage of your transaction every time you swipe that. So you'll see that a lot of vendors, they may say, we don't accept credit cards under $5. So I'm not here to tell you one way or the other if you should not take it under $5 or you should take it under $5. What you should be thinking about is you should know what it costs you, for your credit card processing fees. You should know what your average transaction or average swipe is so that you can accurately figure this out. And then with that information, you should make a policy. Are you going to, is it more worthwhile to be able to accept cards? And so I'm going to accept cards from everybody. Should you put a threshold in there? I'm not going to accept any payment under $5 or whatever the dollar amount is, right? Or you may have a situation like this where you're doing a lot of transactions and you have different discount rates. Like this is the first column there is a rate from Elevon, and Elevon's just a large credit card processing firm, and they're going through like if you could actually get this rate by going through one of the large warehouse clubs like Costco or Sam's Club, and they could be down to as low as 1.1% plus 12 cents every swipe, right? There's that Square rate, 2.6 plus 10%. Or if you don't have the card available or you're using a virtual terminal, you could be up to 3.5%. Well, you can see the amount of sales that you have every month that you're processing through credit cards can really take a large chunk. So like on that $50,000 example, if your average processing is 3.5% plus 15 cents, and let's say you're making a very small margin on what you're selling. So on that 50,000, you're making, let's say 10%. So that may be where you're only making $5,000 on that $50,000 in sales, right? Well, half of that is going to credit card fees. So you really have to know What's your margin? Like, what's the profit you're going to be selling on your different products? What's your average ticket? So I put the average ticket here as $10 per item, because with that 15 cent charge, if you're doing that many transactions on $50,000, that's going to add $750 of transaction fees, right? So it gets to be very expensive, both for fees and both for the discount rate. All right. And the reason why I mention all this is because you have to kind of make this decision. In the previous examples, am I going to take credit cards at a certain dollar amount, right? If your transaction is less than this, I'm not going to take it. Here, you might do what some restaurants are doing, right? Or other large businesses as well. They're adding a credit card fee, and that credit card fee may be 3% and maybe 5%, right? So if you're going to use your credit card, we're going to add that fee onto your transaction, right? And so these are all, there's a lot of large companies that don't do this. If you go to McDonald's, you go to Walmart, they're not doing this. But there's a lot of, especially smaller restaurants, where they're going to add that fee directly onto the bill. So be thinking about that in your own business. Could you do that? Would your customers not be willing to shop with you if you did do this? Could you do it and it would be okay? And so you could actually be having that revenue and being able to accept credit cards but not costing you the money. Okay. And then one other thing I wanted to mention along the lines of credit cards is taxes. I mentioned with cash, you have this anonymity, right, where people don't know about where your cash is. So I mean, I don't want to suggest anybody not pay their taxes, but some people don't pay their taxes, right? And so with these credit card companies, they will send you a 1099, and will send that 1099 to the federal government as well, right? So you have to be thinking about that. Am I planning to pay taxes? If I'm processing through one of these processors, I may get a 1099. I think the official position through Square is that they will not send a 1099 unless you have $20,000 in sales and 200 transactions. I believe that's in a year. However, what a lot of these companies do is they go and eventually end up at the strictest definition, right? So whatever state, because a lot of these rules are controlled by different states. And so whatever state provides the most strict rule, they end up following that rule because it's just easier in their business to have one policy for everything. And there are some states like Illinois, they require any credit card processor to send a 1099 at $600 processed in a year. So that's almost everybody. That actually, we do a lot of work here with Etsy, and that's how Etsy used to be. They used to be $20,000, and now they're at $600. So be thinking about that. With some credit card processors, if you have as little as $600, you're going to be generating a 1099 both for yourself, and then that's going to go to the federal government. They're going to know that you're selling and expect some sort of tax return. Now, will they audit you? Will you get some sort of penalty? I don't know, but just wanted to put that in your mind that taxes and how you're handling taxes is definitely a consideration if you're going to be taking credit cards. Okay. Was going to talk about, some of the other fees and different things, but, pros, integration of the accounting system. But I think I've talked credit cards to death. Okay. Just real quick on mobile payment apps, because we saw a large percentage of the folks in the webinar were taking mobile payment apps, right? And I think so a lot of people are familiar with these companies like Venmo and Cash App. They're very very popular. So this is having and I wanted to say this goes along with these with the Cash Apps, but also with the credit cards as well. Because one of the things I wanted to say is access to internet or access to cellular connectivity to provide you internet connection. With Square, you can actually process credit cards when you do not have access to an internet connection. However, just like a check, once that transaction happens, that money is gone, that the product is gone, and if once you connect to the internet, if that card gets declined, you lose the money. You're out, right? And so that is a risk. So if you are going to be accepting these payments, you have to make sure that you have good internet, right? And maybe the venue where you're selling at has internet, but it's always good to come with backup, whether it's going to be on your cell phone or if you're doing some of these things on a tablet, because a lot of people will use like a little iPad or something, making sure that you have some sort of hotspot that's going to be able to provide you that connectivity and maybe even backup batteries, right? So that your device doesn't die or the hotspot doesn't die, right? You have plenty of battery to get you through the day. Okay, so back here to mobile payment apps, right? So what's the difference here between mobile payment apps and something like a Google Pay? Because you can actually do a lot of the same things with Google Pay or with Apple Pay. You can actually send payments like from one Apple phone to another Apple phone. And so you can do a lot of the same things here with the Venmo, right? That's really what happens, right? It's a peer-to-peer payment system where you're sending from one person to another person, totally digitally. The difference here is that with these apps, Venmo, Cash App, Zelle, you both your customer and you have to have the app, right? So if AJ, once again, AJ is my default customer, right? And so if AJ is coming to pay and she only has Cash App on her phone, that's how she pays, and I only have Venmo, I can't accept her payment. She can't send me a Cash App payment to Venmo, right? Now, maybe it works if I have Square because a lot of these companies are owned by larger companies. Cash App is owned by Square. Venmo is owned by PayPal. But for the most part, you have to have the Venmo app to accept Venmo payments. You have to have the Cash App to accept Cash App payments. So be thinking about that. I think most people accept Venmo because that tends to be the largest of these. But PayPal is also a large provider. But I don't know how many people actually want to pay with PayPal because I think more people have just been conditioned to pay in person with Venmo as opposed to PayPal, even though it does a lot of the same things. So be thinking about that. But one of the things I did want to mention with regards to these mobile payment apps is I wanted to talk about safety. If you are going to put this on your phone, there's really some safety concerns because I think in using these, it's very simple. You give the person your address, your email address, and they can send the payment. You give them the dollar amount. I will say this, they are not like a credit card processing, or a POS system. So if you have to add tax or any of those things, you can't do that through Venmo. They're going to send you the dollar amount. So you're going to have to calculate all that separately. One of the easiest things to do is if you have already calculated tax into your product. Maybe you're selling things at a whole dollar amount. So if you are charging sales tax or you are paying sales tax, many of us don't pay sales tax when we actually go to a farmer's market or something. But if we are paying sales tax, especially off the res, you're supposed to be, that you are not having to calculate that sales tax. All your products have that built in so that you're able to be, you can just give them the total and they can pay and they don't have to worry about adding in anything extra, right? Because that's going to make it a lot easier in the customer, both for the customer and for you, especially if there's a long line. Right now, if you're having to get out a calculator and do all this math with this big line of people, that's going to be difficult. But if you're using this, one of the key things to protect yourself is making sure that you have a separate account so that these are not tied to your bank, just in case of fraud. Right? If something happens and they get your Venmo balance, all right, if you have $100 in your Venmo balance, great, but that's better than them being able to get into Venmo and issue a payment that now comes from your bank account and maybe instead of $100, $1,000 comes out or much more than that, right? So that's one of the things is having a separate bank account that's separate from your normal bank account. And that separate bank account is the one that's tied in to one of these mobile payment apps. With Zelle, they have been improving lately, but Zelle, because they're owned by certain banks, they have really put a lot of limitations on the different protections that they provide, and they really don't have a lot of consumer protections. So I know a lot of people that do kind of financial literacy, they have podcasts, things like that. They recommend against using Zelle. So it's definitely a business decision to you. Do your customers have Zelle? Maybe nobody's ever even asked to use Zelle, so it's not a big deal. But if your customers aren't asking to use Zelle, probably not a good thing, because probably not a good thing to have it, because the customer protections aren't there. So, that would be a good one to even maybe push your customers away from. And then one of the things I'll mention with Venmo is, if you've ever used Venmo, you can actually put what the transaction is for. Some people will put crazy things. They'll talk about, hey, I'm giving you this money for drugs or something like that, right? So, that's not very professional. And you don't want to have a bunch of people see your business. So make sure with your Venmo that you are putting your transactions as private, right? You're running a business, you want to be as professional as possible. So, okay, that's mobile payment apps, but very easy to take, and free to take. No, I shouldn't say free to take those payments. What I should have mentioned on here is, it's normally free to take payments on something like a Venmo. But if the customer is designating this as a business transaction, you will actually have to pay a business fee. And right now, I believe Venmo's business fee is like 1.9%. So very similar to how you would be paying with a credit card. And then the customer is actually going to be paying the credit card fee, right? Normally, if you were accepting, let's say you're accepting Venmo and there's no fee, you're not having to pay that credit card fee. Your customer actually is. So that's a little bit different. So as far as a dollar amount, it's actually, or a cost wise, it's actually more of a benefit to accept Venmo than accept credit cards, right? But but if they are actually designating it as a business transaction, you are ended up paying a very similar amount to what a business transaction, right? Because like if you're doing credit cards, we said about 2.6%, and as a business transaction, it's 1.9%. And we actually have that. I mentioned earlier that we run a horse boarding stable, and some of the customers pay us by PayPal, and some of those designate that as a personal payment to my wife, and it goes through, and there's no fee. Some customers designate that as a business payment, and we actually end up paying, about 2%. It's very similar for PayPal as well. So that's something to be thinking about as you're accepting this. There'll be a little fee, and I would just plan to have that as a little fee, because, right, you are operating a business, and I'm sure a lot of customers will designate it that way. Didn't want to say a whole lot here about cryptocurrency, but I wanted to mention it because there's some people that want to accept cryptocurrency because they believe in cryptocurrency. There's some people that just like cash, it could be anonymous, so they so that they want to do it. Maybe they're doing something illicit. One of the things though with crypto, and why I don't even really want to go that deep into it, is it's very complicated in the way that you do it. There are ways that you can accept, Bitcoin or, Ethereum, where you're just setting up a wallet and people are able to pay. You could check it right there on the phone. One of the first things you have to have is internet connection, right? Because all this is being done digitally over the internet. But what you're going to want to watch out for with some of those larger currencies is that they have fees. Like for Ethereum, they have gas fees, and those fluctuate. And also the price fluctuates. So you have to always be paying attention to what the cost is, because you may start the day and Bitcoin's at a certain level, and now all of a sudden it's surged. So actually the cost to your customer is much more for your products than it was at the beginning of the day. Or Bitcoin has fallen a tremendous amount. So now what the customers are paying are much less than what you were accepting at the beginning of the day. So you can see that. So for a lot of people, they don't don't want to accept cryptocurrency for that reason, especially at a place where, if it's a busy farmer's market, you don't want to be, having to check the current rate on Bitcoin. There are some much cheaper coins that tend to alleviate some of these problems, like Litecoin or Bitcoin Cash. But I think to even talk about that, it gets to be so complicated, but I just wanted to mention it so you guys know that it is out there, and some people may want to delve into it, right? But I think if we're increasing the sales volume of our business, there's so few people that are actually wanting to pay in Bitcoin or wanting to pay in a cryptocurrency. It's not going to really move the needle sales wise, but wanted to at least mention it. And then payment gateways, and these are online payment gateways, Shopify, Stripe, Etsy. There's lots of different ways to pay online or pay, like if you're doing Etsy, all those payment structures are going to be built in. I know people that are, create things on Facebook, and they just put it up on their Facebook and say, hey, let me know if you want to get this. And that's how they make the sale. And Facebook has it built in, has MetaPay, where you can even make a small payment directly through Facebook. So, and we're about to talk to Felix, and Felix, does not only in-person farm sales and probably in-person jewelry sales, but online jewelry sales as well, right? And so your business, you may think, okay, well, I'm only doing in-person stuff. Well, your business may expand relatively quickly to be doing online stuff. If you're going to move into value added, you want to diversify where your funding is coming from, your sales are coming from. You may quickly want to sell things like, let's say you're producing I always use strawberries because that's the easiest easiest example. If you're selling strawberries in person, right, you may want to make a strawberry jelly or jam, right? And you can that, and now you could be selling that on Etsy, or selling it on your own store. Or you may be selling it to like a local market and invoicing them and taking payment a different way, right? So there's a lot of different things and a lot of different ways that you can take payment. And I just wanted to expose you that it's out there, but because we're kind of pressed for time, don't want to go into this. And just before we get to Felix, wanted to mention two other things. As we're accepting these payments, right? One of the reasons why we're accepting these payments, not only to increase the income to our business, but also to provide a better customer experience to our customers, right? So let your customers know that you are accepting these payments, right? First, make it as easy as possible to pay, right? Have a QR code, right? So they don't have to type in your address, your email address if they're paying by Venmo, right? They can just go and scan it on their phones, using their camera. It pops right up on their Venmo and they're able to pay. Have this clearly communicated with signage in your booth, right? That they're able to pay a number of different ways and maybe have all the different things, maybe logos there, so it's very visible. So that's one of the things that we want to do, right? It's not just offering that we accept all these different payments, is that we have to communicate that to the customer as well. And then finally, security. We want to make sure that that we are secure, right? It's not, if we're taking these payments, we don't want to be losing money on it. We don't want to be jeopardizing our business. So whatever you decide to expand, especially if you're moving to these digital forms of payment, right? Whether it be tap to pay credit cards or NFC payments through smartphones, we want to keep our software and our hardware updated, right? Because if there's ever a problem, we don't want the company coming back and say, oh, you didn't update your software. Yes, so those transactions are denied and that product is gone and you lose that money, right? So always having, always being updated. Always making sure that you have strong passwords and two-factor authentication, any type of security that you can, to make sure that somebody cannot get into your account. Because what's a credit card company going to do, right? If somebody gets into your account and somehow there's some losses, right? First thing they're going to do is, did you have the security in place to help prevent that? And if you didn't, they're going to be quick to blame it on you and not be able to restore you and make wipe those losses away, or even put the money back into your account. If you have employees, making sure that they know how all this works, making sure they know the best practices in accepting these payments. And last but not least, I mentioned this up at the beginning of the webinar, but as we're taking additional payments, what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing for our business. It's not just taking them to take more payments, right? when we're taking more payments, it is going to be a lot more to manage, right? Every payment that you bring on, you're going to want to be reconciling that. You're going to want to be, if you're having an accounting system like QuickBooks, you're going to want to be getting that data into QuickBooks, right? And every single one, you're having to put those transactions in. So really be thinking, which of these payment apps are really going to bring me the biggest bang for the buck? And those are the ones that you should focus on first, right? Because you don't want to just be adding ones that aren't really, moving the needle your sales wise, because you don't want to have to manage them, or you don't want to create a security risk or a security hole where it could actually cost you money, not earn you money. Okay. And with that, I'm sorry it took so long to get to you, Felix. Thank you for sticking around, and thank you everybody for sticking around. But what we wanted to do today is we wanted to make sure that we had a real life example, not just talking about theory, but talking about how somebody is actually putting these different payment methods, and not all these different payment methods. We want to ask Felix which payment methods he's using. So, but first, welcome Felix. We have Felix. Felix is, he runs two different businesses, Earle Couture, which does jewelry, and Red Earth Gardens, where he grows things, and he's a farmer. So, Felix, welcome. Thank you very much for being here. Tell us a little bit about your businesses and what you do, and where you're actually selling and how you sell.
Hi there, everyone. I don't know if you guys can hear me. This Zoom app is, I think I've only been on Zoom for maybe 3 times in my life. So,
All right. Well,
uh,
we're glad to be the fourth one.
yeah. So, and I'm technologically impaired too. So I just do not like technology. But like it makes things easier. It makes accepting payments a lot easier. So, hello everyone. Yate. My name is Felix. I'm gonna do a really quick introduction. I am 22 national trabaho pasyasin sa najin da sa che auto belgian da shanana kuta et and then Luca and Kele Aisinasha. Hello everyone again. Good evening. My name is Felix Earle. I am of the Bitterwater clan, born for the Water's Edge clan. And my maternal grandfathers are the Blackstreak running into the Water clan, and my paternal grandfathers are the Blackstreak clan. That's how I introduced myself to the universe. So, hello again. Um, so, um, what I do is, some of you might know me. I do have, actually, I do have 3 businesses right now that I operate. Earle Couture, which is the fashion line. I also have Earle Couture Jewelry, which is the jewelry line. And then I do also own Red Earth Gardens, which focuses primarily mostly on organic gardening and farming techniques, and then things like that. So, and I could say, mentioned earlier, people they just wanted to bring me aboard and let everybody know what that I am. I do actually take many different forms of payment online. A lot, I'm going to say about probably 80% of my revenue that I collect is actually online. So it is really, really big for me. It's really, really huge. E-commerce is what I mostly focus on. Um, and I take several different types of payments. I do have several different type of payment methods. The biggest one that I actually deal with is Zelle. The reason why I deal with Zelle is because my primary customer base is on the reservation. I do have some customers that are off reservation, but my primary clientele is on the reservation. So we all tend to use Zelle. And then in some weird way, we all know each other. So there's kind of that trust there. So, and with that, I'm actually kind of really unable to ghost anybody. So, if that were to ever happen, somebody somewhere on the reservation will know where to find me. So there is that. Also, after Zelle, my next one is going to be Venmo. Venmo's my next one, and then right after that is going to be my Cash App. After that is going to be my FB Pay, and then after that, I do also take cash in hand. So those are the types of payments that I actually do take right now. Um, yeah.
Felix, did you say FB Pay? Is that Facebook?
Yes, that's Facebook Pay. So
Okay.
yes, Facebook Pay. Yes, FB Pay is Facebook Pay. I know there is one also on Instagram, but I've never really gone and looked into that just yet. My Instagram is actually not as my fan base on Instagram is not as large as it is on Facebook. I'm constantly on Facebook. So Facebook actually is where I usually generate most of my sales, because my page on Facebook, I have two pages on Facebook, my Earl Couture and then also my personal page. But everybody seems to contact me through my personal page. They'll usually say, I seen your Earl Couture page. Um, and then I don't know why, but they always tend to go to my personal page and contact me there. And then most of the time, all the transactions are done through that app, through that page. So
So like when they're doing FB Pay, like it's just like in the messenger, it's just like a little button that they
yeah,
can press and put the money in and hit send and you get paid.
yes, exactly. So when you go into Messenger, so you have your FB app, and then you also have to have your Messenger app at the same time. So in your Messenger app, when they contact me, they'll say, I'll give them the options of form of payments, and then if they choose FB Pay, either what they will do is if they're totally brand new to FB Pay, I will actually send them a payment request.
Mm.
And then what they'll do is they will go through that process step by step, how to set up and to make payment. So with FB Pay, I have actually several different bank accounts that I've linked to every type of payment method. So my FB Pay is actually linked to a bank account. So any payment that is made through FB through Facebook Pay will automatically get put into that one specific bank account that I have. And then also my Venmo and my Cash App is linked to another bank account. So I have four different bank accounts that I use to navigate these different types of payment methods.
So do you do that for security, or is there another reason why you do that?
I do that for security, and I also do it for accounting.
Oh, got it right.
The accounting is a really big part because in my business, I'm the accountant, I'm the artist, and I'm everything. So for me, I find it easier when I just, I have several different, institutions or accounts that I have to deal with. So, and then also when I do my taxes and I turn everything into my accountant, it's also easier for them to separate and do all that work for them. It just makes it so much easier. Like I said, I have three different businesses. So, and they're all under very different accounts also too. So, it just makes it easier for me like that. So my FB account, my FB Pay account is linked to one bank account, and all the money that I generate or all the revenue that I generate goes directly to that account.
Got it.
Um, yeah. So you mentioned earlier with my Venmo. Venmo is actually very good. I like Venmo because they actually they'll give you a monthly report. Also, Cash App does that too. They'll give you a monthly report, Venmo, and they'll actually let you know how many sales you generate. I actually refer to that. And then I also myself keep records, an actual hard copy record of all the transactions that I make. I have actually three books. I have my FB Pay, and then my Zelle, my Venmo, actually four books, and my Cash App. So I keep records of that too, and it's manual. I write everything back down. I'm old school, so
Right.
I'm quicker at that instead of typing things into, I guess, a spreadsheet. You could say that takes me forever. I'm not very good at typing. I'm not very fast at it, but so I just record everything down in books. So I have four separate books, and then at the end of the month, when I do my paperwork, I measure the reports that I get from my Venmo, my Cash App, and then also my Zelle, and I measure it against what I have in my books. And if there's any difference in balances, I try to figure out where that is or what's happening to that. But so most of the time at the end of the month, I'm able to easily maybe catch something and be able to fix that. So that's how I do it. And then like with Zelle is pretty interesting. Because in Zelle, you really don't um you have to really do all of your accounting on your own when it comes to your Zelle. Separating your taxes, what have you, versus your shipping and handling. With Zelle, I don't have to pay any like processing fees or anything like that with my Zelle account. But with my Venmo, my Cash App, and my FB Pay, there are processing fees, and they're going up. So
Oh God.
I just did a Venmo, just the other day I did a Venmo transaction for $300 even. And then for that revenue to when it actually has to be transferred to my bank account, to the bank account, it cost me $5.25 just to transfer that
Oh wow.
300. So
Wow.
it's pretty high. So you do have two options with these cash apps. They'll offer you an instant transfer or a 3 to 5 day transfer. I've done the 3 to 5 day transfer, but I because my business has grown and it's I have to make transactions very, very quickly. So the turnover has to be really, really quickly. I found that the 3 to 5 business day transfers are really slow, and they really at times will just it'll just like put me behind on my accounting and everything. So I actually just went ahead and I do the actual instant transfers now. So when you do the instant transfer, it is a lot higher, it costs more, but for my accounting, it keeps my balances in check quicker and faster. So
Now, is that a big difference in the two different payments? I mean, like
yeah,
pretty
yeah,
substantial.
yeah, yeah, there's a very large difference. It's really substantial. Yeah, there's
Oh,
a
got
huge.
it.
I can't think off the top of my head what it was, but yeah. But like I said, I just gave that example, that 300 transaction I made, and then actually to have that transferred to the my account, it cost $5.25.
Right.
So for me, that's a lot. I mean, it will add up at the end of the month. It's just astounding how much we pay to these apps,
Right.
to do this for us. So, but you know what, it's a part of business. And then the way I also do this too is I because all my transactions are done on the reservation in Ganado. um, I do charge a 6% Navajo Nation sales tax on all the transactions that I do. Either whether it's for product, actual tangible product, or if it's services that are rendered that I do. So I do have, I do sell actual merchandise, and I also sell services. And in each and every business, the three businesses that I run, I do that. So say jewelry, I make jewelry, and then I'll have an inventory, an actual physical inventory that I put out there, and people will buy product from. And then also I have clients that will come in and say, I have this piece of jewelry, it needs to be fixed. And
Mhm.
then those ones I charge just service rendered. And then the same thing with my fashion. I have inventory that I have out there. And then at the same time, I do have clients that will come in and say, I need alterations. And then I charge I'll charge a service rendered fee. And then also with my gardening, like, harvest time, I'll actually have produce to sell. And then at the same time, I also do consulting work with my gardening. So I'll have people that will call me and pull me out to do workshops, what have you, and that's also service rendered. So I do actual product, merchandise, and then I also do services with all three businesses.
Now, one thing I noticed is you didn't mention credit cards. So are you not taking credit cards directly?
I do not take credit cards directly. There was a point that I did have earlier, this was several years ago, I did have a Square account, and then we run into some issues with it. So at the time, I just figured, okay, let me lay off of the Square right now, but I am still gonna be at some point when I actually get an actual website backup, then I'm gonna be using the Square account again. One big hurdle that I used to have a PayPal account too. And then with Square, one of the biggest things on the reservation, especially with Square and with PayPal, is you actually have to have a physical address.
Oh, got
Yes, you
it.
have to have physical addressing. And a lot of people know, especially on the reservation, if you do not have that, we don't have rural addressing out on the reservation yet. So
Mhm.
that is the big thing. Um, there is a few places that do have an actual physical address, but those are really large, I guess you could say large institutions, say like the hospital here in Ganado in my hometown, the Sage
Right.
Memorial Hospital, they have a physical address. Um, maybe the chapter house, the community center here in Ganado has a physical address, but little tiny residential area, little residential spots, we don't have rural addressing. So that is the reason why that was one of the reasons, one of the factors that why I had to back off of Square, and then also my gosh, what was the other one? My PayPal.
But PayPal. Have you seen anybody try to solve that through a PO box, or do they not even allow the PO box that they
I
really want
I
the
I,
physical
I
address?
tried to. I actually had these accounts with opened at one point with my PO box,
Hmm.
and then with PayPal, they actually had a physical description, just a physical description of where I was located. Um, so, but I don't know, I do not know if PayPal. I kind of, asked them like, you guys have my physical description. Could you guys use that as a actual physical address? But they were like, I don't know if they have a database or if they look on something or if they refer to another database or something. But they were like, that's an invalid physical mailing address, so we can't use that.
Got
And
it.
I was like, okay, yeah.
That's definitely something I'll raise with Square because there's a gentleman, his name is Martin Guerrero. He's actually down in on the Salt River Pima res, and he's for Square. He's basically their Native American rep and goes and does presentations. He's done a presentation with Change Labs with us, other tribes and organizations, and so I'll definitely ask him that because that is not unique to Navajo and Indian country. There's a lot of reservations out there that people are living on just streets that don't have a physical address. And we were working with a gentleman up in Hoopa in California, and he wanted to get on Google My Business. Like when you go search, and that thing comes up on the right hand side, and because that's a huge thing, right? And when that's for local, what they call search engine optimization, having that little box that pops up generates you a lot of customers, and they would not approve him because he can't document, because they're like telling him, go take a video of your street sign. And he's like, I don't have street signs.
Mhm.
I can show you my house, I can show you my tools, but there's no address, right? And there's no address on my house. There's no street sign, and we've not been able to get them up on Google My Business as of yet. So I definitely hear you. I mean, it's a huge issue in Indian country, so that's definitely something I'll raise with Martin, because that's
Mhm.
probably something that's we're talking about this on the presentation, but like if people can't get credit cards because they don't have a physical address, I mean, it's a huge deal, because
Mhm.
like with Square, it's not even just like because you could accept it on your phone or you could accept it on a website, but if they require a physical address, you can't do it.
Yeah. Mhm.
Have you lost any customers? Like, if has anybody ever said to you, "Hey, I'd like to pay with a credit card," and you say, "I can't accept a credit card," and then you end up not getting that sale?
Yes, I have. There's actually been quite a few where I will tell people that I can't accept things. But the thing with I always make sure, excuse the noise out there. We have a bunch of work going on the farm here right now.
Oh, no
So
problem.
um a lot of things that okay, yeah, that's good. I'm sorry, I was talking to one of my workers.
No problem.
Um a lot of time, most of the time, what I will do is when I do have a new customer coming in, I will let them know that upfront that these are the form of payments that I can take. And then but they will always say, okay, then, but can you take this other form of payment? And I tell them like, no, I absolutely can't do that. And yeah, I have lost quite a bit of sales. There's a lot of people that actually do pay with PayPal.
Mm,
Especially you have these different types of specialty groups like on social media with Instagram and then with Facebook, and then also with X, where these people create these groups, say like lovers of Southwest turquoise jewelry. Um, so these groups will, go out and look for artists and things like that. And then I ended up on some of these groups, and a lot of these groups, a lot of the people that are in these groups will message me, and a lot of them, most of them would want to pay through PayPal. So unfortunately, I tell them that I can't do that. And then I mention what I have, how I can take payments. But we, at times, sometimes we'll work something out, we'll work through it. And then um, most of the time, also, too, like if I have a brand new customer that's coming in that is, say, maybe on the East Coast, some of them will be a little bit insecure. And I tell them, well, what I can do for you is I can provide you an invoice, a signed invoice, if that's what you want to do, just to make you feel more secure. And then usually that will be like, okay, yeah, sure, let's do that. So I will create an invoice for them, and it will be signed, and I will send it over to them, and then we'll work out a payment, through either Zelle or something like that. And then they have the invoice, and then they make the payment, then I send out the merchandise. And then after that, what I will do is once the merchandise is shipped, I will send them all of the tracking information and the insurance information on the merchandise. And doing that, it's a lot more work, but then doing that for like a new customer or a customer that is like way, way far away, it just gives them a sense of security. Like, okay, this guy's legit. He's not gonna ghost me. He's just not gonna take my money and or anything like that. So I will go that extra mile for them to provide all this information and security for them and give them all that information. So
yeah, I think that's really important for folks online that are going to be selling, especially online, and you're not delivering the product immediately. If you're using something like a Venmo, once somebody sends you that money, you have that money. There's nothing they can do, right? There's not like a credit card where they can do a dispute procedure and be able to do like a chargeback because the product was never delivered. They're just out of luck, right? If they're meeting with a vendor that's like is not going to give them the goods or something. So I think that's important that people know that when they're running their business, what you're trying to do is you're trying to give good customer service, right? And so if this is what it's going to take to make the sale, this is what it's going to take to make them feel comfortable, this is what you got to do. So we've kept people. I didn't expect it to run this long, so I should probably get close to the end. Is there anything else that you want to add? Anything else that we didn't touch on that people should know about?
Let me see. Now, you know what? Right now, no, not top of my head. I think, listening to the whole webinar, you pretty much covered a lot of things that a lot of my fellow Native and Indigenous farmers and little small businesses really do come to ask me and then ask about. So I really do feel like you covered a whole lot for us. So that
Okay.
was pretty good. All the information. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we sure appreciate it. We sure appreciate having you. I got your slide back up there. So do you want to tell folks where they can find you? I don't know if you have a website or your Facebook pages, and we can put that in the chat box as well.
Okay, yeah. So you can find me. You will find me on Facebook. Facebook is my primary place to be. Like it's where I'm at. It's where I make most of my business and get most of my customers is Facebook. And you can find me at Felix Earle, just like the way it's spelled here. Or you can also I also have a business page, which is Earle Couture on Facebook. And then you can also find me on Instagram under Earle Couture. And then you can find me on X too under Earle Couture, and that's formerly known as Twitter. People still say Twitter, but
Right.
trying to get it. So yeah, and then also my phone number is provided there for you guys, and then also my email is also provided for you guys there. And that's the way most people will be able to reach me. But my pages on Facebook and Instagram are all public. So you don't have to be on like have a Facebook account or an Instagram account. I believe right now you can message me because my pages are all set as public pages. You don't even have to be my friend. You can just still message me and get in contact with me through those. Yeah.
Yeah, and ignore the first one that I just did. I did my first one and I spelled couture wrong. But if you go, I think this second one is yours. You have looks like a woman that's kind of like leaning out. Actually, I'll bring it over. Make sure that this is yours. I'll bring it over so everybody can see. That's yours?
Oh yeah, that's me. That's the design page. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you could find there. And I think you said that the same thing is at Instagram, right? So I think
Yes, that
that's
Instagram too. Yes.
so yeah. So okay. No, I got it there. Use the second link. Don't use the first one. The first one is bad. So well, Felix, I want to really thank you for coming on. This was some great information today, and really appreciate you being here today.
You're welcome, and appreciate you having us and getting all this information to us. So yeah, it is really scary for especially for indigenous. I would say yeah, for me it was scary in the beginning. I was just like, how do I go about this? What do I do? And before it was just cash only, but I will tell you this, like e-commerce is the way to go. I tell my artists that, you're going to make a lot more money and get your product out there faster. Your turnover rate I tell people your turnover rate is very important to gain revenue. You got to get your product out there. You got to sell your product very quickly, and then you got to make more. So
I think those are good words of wisdom. I mean that's. I mean, I should have asked that. I mean, like, because you used to sell just cash, and you have even seen it in your business as you start bringing in e-commerce. You're just able to sell a lot more.
yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't want to keep people past 6 o'clock. We got you Felix's information. We'll make sure that gets down in the chat box as well. But I'm just going to just close this out right now and say if anybody has any questions, feel free. I could bring you off of off of mute, or you can ask in the chat box, and but if nobody has any other questions, I did want to say really appreciate you guys being here today. Thank you for Felix for presenting. Thank you for AJ for co-hosting with me. And we are doing this through Tolani Lake Enterprises, and we're doing a monthly webinar to help small farm enterprises. A lot of times the topics that we cover touch other small businesses as well. So everybody is welcome, but especially if you're running a small farm enterprise, a lot of these topics are going to be very important to you. What we're trying to do is to make your business more sustainable, right? How can you bring in additional revenue? How can you make your business more secure? How can you bring in diverse income streams? All those things are the things that we're going to be discussing in these webinar series. Last workshop we did is back in April. We did a workshop all about record keeping. And of course, this is ways to make payment. And we'll have another one in June. So please stay tuned for that information, and we'll get it to you as soon as we are ready to release it. I haven't seen any questions. So with that, I want to make sure. I thought we were going to go an hour. It went a lot longer than that, but I want to thank everybody for sticking around, and good luck to all of you guys in your business, and we'll be in touch soon. Thank you very much, guys. Take care. So long.
Thank you both.
All right. Thank you.